Okay, so I'm going to tell a story back in my undergrad, which was at Colorado State University. And I'm currently a grad student here, so this was actually about 15 years ago. And it definitely stands out in my mind because at the time it was something that was really embarrassing, and I was mortified at the time of and being in the moment. It was my second semester of finals. And I remember my first semester, I really struggled academically because I lived in the dorms and I was really overwhelmed by the whole social aspect of school and how to manage dorm life and social life and school and where and how to study. And I was in a sociology class that was maybe over 100 people in one of the big classrooms. And I was really nervous for the final. It was a class that I was struggling in. And so I had stayed up all night studying. I had pulled one of those all-nighters, which I was probably spending more time worrying about and being anxious about, and wasn't sure how I was going to do, and maybe some procrastination in there. So I ended up staying up, and I think I had maybe about an hour of sleep. And I remember that this final was an early morning final. It was like 8 a.m., one of the early mornings that I probably barely made it to on a regular basis, anyways. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to close my eyes for a little bit and sleep, and I'll just catch, like, I think I could at least get like an hour of sleep before going in. But of course, you can see where this is going, is that I didn't exactly wake up when I was supposed to. And I woke up like 15 minutes after the final had already started. And I just remember waking up in like the biggest panic ever because it was the final and what was I going to do? And I just remember waking up and my heart was racing. And I had to have one of my roommates take me and like literally drop me off at the front of the building. And I was just feeling so frazzled. And I remember pulling up to the building and wondering, like, how am I honestly going to walk into this final with over 100 people in the classroom, feeling so embarrassed and knowing I was going to have to go to the front of the room and get an exam. And I remember standing at the door and actually contemplating, like, not going in, and just like I was going to find a different way on how to take this final because I did not want to have to walk. Who shows up late to their final? And anyways, I stood there for probably a solid minute, and I remember just mustering up the courage, like, I have to go in and take this final. Like, there's no other way around it. And I just took this big deep breath and opened the door. And of course, everybody looks at you, and because they're like, who's just coming in now? They'd probably been in the final for 25 minutes by that point. I mean, I think I just put my clothes, whatever, I don't even know if I had the same clothes that I slept on. I just showed up to the final. So then by the time I get the final, I'm all frazzled and anxious, so none of my like front part of my brain is even working. And I had to sit there for a few minutes, and I completed the final, and I completed the class, and I did not do as well on the final as I'd hoped, but I made it through. And I'll just never forget that moment of having to walk into that classroom as a freshman, feeling so embarrassed and shameful that I had slept in for this sociology final. Um, and but I made it. I did. So that was something that really stood out in my mind as and I feel like every time finals week would come around thereafter, I was just always aware of the timepiece and any 8 a.m. classes. And finals were just such this, big, anxious week for everyone. And having that where you sleep in through your final was just kind of a big deal at the time. But that's something that really stands out in my